What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and what is the one thing that all child stars seem to have in common? The fact that they all, with the exception of a select few, they all seem to go crazy at one point in time in their life. Now, sure, some of them are able to get their lives back on track and live successful lives, but a ton of child stars go completely off the rails. They turn into junkies, you name it, and I think it's become clear at this point, after having so many examples of this happening, that this isn't a coincidence. This isn't a one-off type of situation. This has become so common. In fact, it's become so common that it's almost like a miracle if you're a child star that somehow manages to live a normal life. But when you really get to thinking about it from like a psychological aspect, what is it that is happening here to these child stars that make all of them have these issues later in life? Now, I think we could bring up a couple of things that may cause this to happen. Of course, young child stars, a lot of them feel like they were robbed of their childhoods. Because, make no mistake about it, even though they're in TV shows and movies, they're still kind of working at an early age. They aren't living the traditional life that a child lives, and I think a lot of child stars grow bitter about that. So I do think that that's a factor as to why a lot of child stars have these issues once they grow up. But also, could it be that a lot of these child stars are touched inappropriately and inappropriate things are done to them while they're in Hollywood? I think we all know that that happens behind the scenes as well. Also, take into account the fact that for a lot of these kids, I think the stardom of the time, it goes to their heads. Imagine being an 8 or 9-year-old. You're in all the movies and TV shows. It feels like you're on top of the world. And it's like you peaked. You reached the peak of your life at such an early age. And then going forward, as you get older, people don't care about you anymore. More often than not, child stars don't go on to be stars once they're adults. More often than not, when a child star ages out of that cute, certain age that they're looking for in Hollywood, they are thrown to the curb. And I mean just tossed to the curb as if they don't exist. And they struggle to look for work in Hollywood from then on. I don't know what it is, but there's a certain stigma that is like with child actors that it seems like it doesn't translate into their adult careers. It's almost as if they're like blacklisted. Like, hey, you were that kid on Major Payne. We can no longer have you on this movie. It feels weird, right? But I feel like that can go to kids' heads. You know, that fame and that stardom at such an early age. And then you get older and it seems like people don't care anymore. So I just feel like there's a lot of factors. And that's just naming a few. There's a lot of factors that I feel like cause these child stars to eventually go off the deep end. And matter of fact, if you really ask me to narrow it down, I would say it's probably all of these things put together, like a big toxic cocktail that causes these child stars to just completely go off the rails once they're adults or teenagers. Well, one child star in particular has made the headlines this week because it looks like he went a little crazy as well, but even crazier than most child stars, because this guy, Ryan Grantham, I believe his name is Ryan Grantham. He starred in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He was also in Riverdale. Well, it just so happens that he killed his own mom. Shot her right in the back of the head. And now he is getting sentenced to life. But let's just go ahead and hop into this article so I can give you all a little more details about what's going on here. Actor Ryan Grantham was sentenced to life in prison for the death of his mother. Ryan is known for his role in Diary of a Wimpy Kid and appearances in Riverdale. He pled guilty to second degree in March 20. Oh man, there's so many words. Oh, I hate YouTube. There's so many words just packed in this one sentence that I can't say. But he was charged with second degree murder for killing his own mom. He is 24 years old now. And he was handed a life sentence in the British Columbia Supreme Court in Vancouver on Wednesday. He will not be eligible for parole for at least 14 years. Per the outlet, Justice Kathleen Kerr said that gripping statements from the victim's loved ones, such as Grantham's sister, showed the life-shattering impact of the tragedy. She added that the actor's saving grace was that he was aware enough of what he did that he didn't go on a spree. Speaking about Grantham's mental health issues, Kerr noted that he had been dealing with a lot of difficulties weeks before the actor pulled the trigger, and he had been viewing violent footage on the dark web. He is currently getting psychiatric treatment while in jail and appears to be showing improvement. Honestly, once you do something like this, I don't care about hearing about the improvement of your mental health while you're in jail. I really do not. But I imagine when things like this happens, it just has to be so devastating for the family. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your sibling killed one of your parents or both of your parents. And it happens more than people think. And that just has to be so scary for people. Now, I don't know why he chose to do this. But as we were talking about earlier on in the video, I believe there's so many factors at play here that really messes up these kids, or he's 24 now, but it messes up these people at an early age. Often, I think that child stars are also bitter towards their parents for even putting them in the position of being a child star. But in this case, I'm not so sure that that is what happened here. Because it looks like, from what Grantham has said, he chose to kill his mother so she wouldn't have to see all of the horrific things that he was about to do. Because his plan was actually to go assassinate Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. That was Grantham's plan. The plan was to take out his mother and then go on this spree that would eventually lead to him taking out Justin Trudeau. He even packed his car with multiple pow-pows. He had 3 pow-pows. He had 12 Molotov cocktails, all types of camping supplies, maps, you name it. This guy was getting ready to live off the grid and somehow try to take out the Prime Minister of Canada. Imagine that. You go from being a child star to trying to take out the Prime Minister of Canada? Why isn't this bigger news? I talk about it all the time, but it's like when the big news is slow and I dive into these smaller news stories, I always come to the realization that these smaller news stories should be the bigger news stories, while most of the bigger news stories are like nothing burgers. Like everyone's talking about Adam Levine's DMs, and it's like, okay, he was flirting with random women. I get it. I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. What surprises me is that some kid from Diary of a Wimpy Kid literally killed his mom and tried to take out the freaking Prime Minister of Canada. But it blows my mind that things like this are always just like, whew, swept under the rug. But here's a comment that Grantham's sister Lisa shared. She says that her mother was vulnerable and Ryan gave her no chance to defend herself. It pains me to know that he was a danger to her life. From what the family says, the mother's sister, Grantham's sister, other family members, they are all scared that he will be released from prison one day. You know, like that, it's got to be devastating to know that you are fearing your own brother getting out of jail. You're fearing your own nephew getting out of jail. But that's what these folks are going through. I think we should all be thankful that we aren't going through something like this right now. I know I am. But at some point, we as a society, we need to step back and address the problem that is going on with our young entertainers. So many of them are just going out bad, like crash test dummies. It's horrible to watch. Like sitting here, I just watch all of these child stars just go off the deep end, go off the rails, you know, OD, get arrested, you name it. And it's like these people were parts of our childhood or were parts of your child's childhood. And I feel like at the very least, we kind of owe it to them to at least care. Think about all the movies you watched growing up or the movies that you put on for your kids when they were growing up. Those child stars did more for you than what you think. Like they entertained you. Maybe they took your mind off of bad times. Every single holiday season, I'm still watching Home Alone. I'm still watching my favorite movie of all time, A Christmas Story. I'm really thankful for Macaulay Culkin and all of the movies that he made as a kid because they had an impact on me, not only as a child, but just as a person in general. They had an impact on my life. They helped shape my love for movies and whatnot. So at the very least, I feel like I owe it to him to at least care about his mental health and to at least care that he's on the right track in life. And for the most part, it looks like Macaulay Culkin, he went through some rough patches, but it looks like he's doing better than most of these child stars. But I feel like it's just like we throw these people in the dumpster or to the wolves. If this was a big name actor in Hollywood, we would care more. It would be mainstream news. But because this is just a child star that was on a couple of movies that we watched when we were a kid, it's like, if anything, it's like people are laughing at these child stars as they just fall into a deep, dark abyss. Look at people like Aaron Carter, who I just covered the other day. I've been looking into him for a couple of days now, and it is terrible, man. It is sad to see what has happened to him. And, you know, the portions of the fan base that stay around, it seemed like they enable this stuff. It's so sad. But like I said, I could go on all day, but I just feel like at some point soon, hopefully soon, because we've seen it happen for years now, we start having these conversations. It's like, you know, when a soldier comes back from war, we should make the necessary adjustments and the necessary moves to ensure that they can still live a productive, successful life outside of the battlefield, outside of the military. Yet I feel like we fail them all the time. And it's the same thing with child stars. It's not the same thing. I'm not comparing going to war with working on a movie set, but like we can't just use these people for everything they're worth and just dump them on the streets as if they're nothing. We need to create some programs, allow people to know that we care or something. You know, there has to be an answer for this. Also, I think if we address the problem with the kid ticklers, the weirdos in Hollywood that like to fondle these little child stars, that could nip a lot of these problems in the bud as well. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.